G'day everyone, welcome to another episode of Heat Check. A very big week in the world of hoops just gone, and maybe an even bigger one coming up with the NBA draft just around the corner as well. My name's Joel Peterson. His name is Michael Houben. We guaranteed an NBA champion this time last week, Mick. We knew we were going to get it. We got it. What a week it's been.
I was going to brag about how we were on the money with that one, but yeah, it was a lot of fun watching that series, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was a crazy series. The Game 7, the Achilles injury to Tyrese Halliburton, what it all means going forward, trades galore in that part of the world, the draft just around the corner. We're going to do a deep dive on that today as well. We've only got a couple of shows left in our season here, but today is almost the culmination of a lot of what we've been building to with the draft literally only days away.
That's right. It's all happening at once. We're seeing a lot of the international leagues start to wind up. They're really in the thick of it right now. And as well, like you said, one of the biggest weeks on the NBA calendar. We've had the finals wrap up, but also the NBA draft so close right around the corner.
All right, let's go back to that championship of the OKC Thunder first, though, because, of course, a little bit of involvement from an Australian perspective. The West Aussie, of course, Alex Dukas, part of that roster. So we got the championship, so he joins a really, really special list of Aussies to win an NBA championship. We've got a connection there with Usman Jeng as well. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I enjoyed, whenever it goes to 7 games, you know it's an exciting series. Obviously, Tyrese's injury is always going to be a what if, but how fantastic for Alex and for Usman to be a part of this experience. I don't care whether you're the star player or you're the 15th guy on the roster, you are a part of that training environment every day, that culture. You've lived the highs and the lows of that season. I'm sure they're rightfully celebrating right now.
And a big weekend for ski goggles as well, because never do they get quite as much attention as they do in those championship photos. So a big win for ski goggle manufacturers the world over as well. But congratulations to Alex, to Usman, to the OKC Thunder organisation. What a remarkable run, and for the Indiana Pacers as well. Hopefully they and Johnny Furphy will be back. It's a little bit uncertain about exactly where, but of course they've got an Aussie, a very talented one who did some really good things this season.
Yeah, hopefully we get to see a little bit more of him on the court next season. Had a fantastic year with the Pacers. A lot of production in the G League, but I would like to see some of those glimpses in the real team to carry into a bigger role next season.
Absolutely. Hey, some big news in the NBL this week as well. One of the most exciting players in the competition, an MVP contender, has re-signed with the New Zealand Breakers for 2 years. Parker Jackson Cartwright. He is just about the president of the Little Big Man Society. Shout out to Damon Lowry. It's very, very exciting to have this man back.
We were sort of reading the tea leaves. I think we knew that this was on the cards, but it's officially official now that he has finished his season in Lithuania. It was a relatively quiet season for Parker Jackson Cartwright, but when he finished things off in really fantastic fashion, he top scored in 2 of their finals games in that series. And we know what he's like in the NBL, a fantastic scoring guard. I can't wait to see what he does in a Breakers uniform again and what talent they can surround him with as well.
And there aren't a heap of guys who really move the needle for your franchise, but he is absolutely one of them when he's at his best.
I think we saw at his peak, he is an MVP candidate. He is one of the most talented scorers in the league, and if you can really build around him and get the right pieces around him, I think that's a winning formula.
Halfway through last year, he might have even been the MVP. Of course, they started so well, the Breakers. Their season fell in a hole after that, but that's a big, big piece to have locked away, and it's great to see PJC is going to be back in the NBL next year. One player who won't be in the NBL next year is Keanu Pinder. So he spent the last couple of years with the Perth Wildcats, 2-time most improved player with Cairns. He was the Sixers previous to that, and he's headed to Japan.
Yeah, this was a fascinating one. We sort of saw that the Wildcats probably wasn't on the table for next season, but what I found fascinating, it looks like it could have been with the Cairns Taipans. There was a lot of mutual interest there. We know he played great basketball, particularly under Adam Ford. It's a shame that, unfortunately, that Japanese money was too good, and he's going to be teaming up with Yanni Wetzel over in Japan.
Who he, potentially could have teamed up with the Perth Wildcats had things broken in a different direction. But, it's such an exciting player. He's a real force of nature when he gets up and going. So hopefully he can find his feet, find his fitness, and impact that league in a big way.
Yeah, he's a confidence player, and I think, perhaps the fit wasn't quite ideal for him in Perth, but we know that at his best, he is a marquee player in the NBL. He's going to do fantastic things in Japan as well.
Absolutely, he will. So all the very best of luck to Keanu Pinder, and of course another hole for the Perth Wildcats to fill. So that little roster build becomes all the more interesting. WNBA action continues. We spoke last week about Chloe Bibby being called up to the Golden State Valkyries. She's been putting in some really good performances, a couple of double-digit scoring games for her. One of her teammates, though, Steph Talbot, of course, South Australian, one of the absolute leaders for the Australian Opals, has been doing some really good things and earning the praise of her coach, Natalie Nakase. Let's hear what she had to say.
That's what I love about Steph is she knows how to impact the game in any way. And tonight she comes in and she just was moving that ball, making the right reads. And then again, we emphasized tonight our goal was to out-rebound Connecticut, and then look what she does. So basically, whatever I think our key points are, she just takes ownership, and that's what we need. And that's what I love about Steph is like she's willing to do whatever it takes to win.
It's been a pretty consistent theme throughout her whole career. You think of the Opals, what she's done in the WNBL as well. You want someone who comes into your program and as Natalie said, does whatever it takes to win. Steph Talbot would be one of the first names.
Yeah, it's not news to us, but fantastic to see her get this credit because she is the ultimate glue player. She does so many things well. I looked at her last box score, 6 points, but 10 rebounds and 4 assists. It's a great exemplar for young players in terms of how you can impact the game.
And I mean, sometimes the term glue player can almost be used in a pejorative sense, and it's not to diminish the talent that Steph has, but in this role with this team, she doesn't need to necessarily go out and score the ball flat out. You know, it's a different role, and she is able to fulfil either of those roles at a pretty elite level.
Well, that's right. And at the end of the day, there is only one ball to go around. So how you can impact the game, particularly without the ball in your hands, having that activity on the glass, being, you know, a connector in terms of your passing ability, that's a really great way to play off of your star players.
Speaking of Aussies overseas, our 3x3 teams are over in Mongolia at Ulaanbaatar at the World Cup at the moment. The Kangaroos, so the men led by Adam Ford, the women by Damon Lowry, and the women's team in particular, Mick, of course, our Olympic representatives, they started off with a warm-up win. Then they had a couple of really solid wins in the first day of this tournament. And they look a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, we've spoken about this roster. Such a talented group. A lot of continuity within this group as well, which is so important in this 3-on-3 format. And they've had a massive scalp knocking off China already.
Yeah, the continuity is a really interesting one. So 3 of the players, of course, went to the Olympics. Lauren Mansfield not there. Milasoa, who's been absolutely lighting it up at every level of basketball at the moment, comes in. So, you know, they have that trust, they've got that connection, and it's really important when you go to tournaments like this that you're not trying to figure it out on the fly.
It's such a unique game as well. We're seeing it's so different from the 5-on-5 game, and to understand, you know, how you guys play together, all those personal connections are so important.
And of course, the men, the Cairns Taipans adjacent team, that Adam Ford's gone over there. They've started well also, so you can catch up with everything they're doing, basketball.com.au, for all the news on our 2 Kangaroos squads, and we wish them the very best of luck as the World Cup unfolds over the next little while. Finally, before we get to our draft deep dive, the WNBL, the NBL schedules got released recently. You would have seen Gazy and Copes going through the board game of the NBL schedule. Here's what it looks like. I don't think we're quite on Gazy and Cope's level yet. I will say yet. Leonard and Andrew, we are coming for you both. But what did you like out of this particular board game?
Well, first takeaway, we don't have a massive schedule, but they jam-pack so much into this. There's so many things to look forward to. I think the one thing that I am really anticipating, though, Bryce Cotton and the Red Army. I think that is going to be so much fun. I can only imagine the energy in that room.
That's like the Mayfair of that of that schedule, I reckon, is Bryce Cotton, of course. Kendrick Davis and Adelaide, that's, I don't know, what's the other blue one? Park Lane or whatever it is. They're down the bottom of the board anyway, if we're talking Monopoly. You're shelling out the moolah for those matchups, that's for sure. But heaps, of course, to like. You can jump on the NBL socials and have a look at all the fun. And the WNBL fixture landed in the last week or so as well. So plenty of news in both of those competitions. Big things happening, which is very, very exciting indeed. Speaking of big things happening, Mick, the NBA draft is only days away. We promised a deep dive last week. We're going to get right into the thick of things today. Go through the names that are in the mix, where they stand, what their lead-up has been. So here are those mocked in ESPN's latest mock draft to be taken. Of course, it's not all the names that are in the mix, but we've seen some changes. We've seen some rising and some falling throughout the year, and this is how it stands at the moment.
Yeah, such a deep draft in terms of Australian talent. Obviously, we're looking mostly at the second round here. There is a small chance that Alex Tui could maybe creep into the first round, but if all these guys are drafted, I would consider it a massive success.
Absolutely. Let's start with the man from the Sydney Kings, Alex Tui, the next star, of course, who spent a couple of years with the Kings. I like to think of him as Mr. Consistent in his application and and the way that he is able to deliver all the time. What do you like about his game when you project him into the draft calculations?
I mean, there is so much to like about his game. He does so many things well. I think that is the key. He is a bit of a Swiss Army knife, a bit of a glue guy, let's say, and he drives the ball at a really good rate. He's able to shoot it pretty well. That's going to be the question mark around him, but also the defense, guarding multiple positions at a high level. I thought that was where he was really impactful.
What kind of fit, like, do you feel like he's ready to go? If he was drafted, is he ready to plug into a system and make a contribution?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of NBA-ready tools here. We know the defense is going to translate straight away. The big question mark, as I said, the shooting. And I feel weird saying that it's a critique because he's not a non-shooter. He can shoot it pretty well, but just consistently shooting it with confidence, that's the difference. You look at the NBA Finals that just passed, all these role players shoot the three at an electric percentage. Alex was floating around 30, 31% this season. If he can get that up to a really consistent rate, he's going to be looking at returns for his team that are in that first round range.
Rocco Zikarsky, what a wild journey really over the first 2 years. So last year you marvel at what this kid can do. He comes out at the start of the season. He was sort of teens, a potential lottery pick at the start of the year in terms of mock drafts. It didn't work out for him in Brisbane. He had a weird season, probably. And then since, he started to rise back up these boards again and put him in the frame.
It's so fascinating to see guys' draft stock sort of fluctuate even when they're not doing anything, and it goes to show what the pre-draft process does. I think of Rocco and I think of, not in terms of the way they play, but in terms of what happened, I think of AJ Johnson. He was someone, much like Rocco, it was broadly deemed that he wasn't necessarily a guy that was an immediate NBL contributor, let alone an NBA contributor. But the tools you can't argue with. And Rocco at 7'4" and 9'6" standing reach, he is someone where you can't argue with that upside.
Is this the throw at the dartboard, or is it more than that for a team if they take him?
I think it is a little bit of a throw at the dartboard. We're seeing him mocked sort of in that second round right now, and a lot of that is the residual hype, that we saw him in that teen range very early on. He was a very dominant junior player, and for good reason. Now, right now, when we saw him with Brisbane, he was a bit of a liability on the defensive end. A lot of that had to do with his mobility. We know the modern game, you have to be able to defend in space. You have to be moving with all the shooters that you're covering at any given time. So it was really hard for him to guard out in the perimeter. But if he's able to work out his positioning, maximise his mobility, and start to figure out how he can just go from a liability straight to, one of those rim protectors, think of guys like Walker Kessler or Zach Edey, that is sort of his archetype and the sort of upside we're talking about if they can bring it all together.
So it will be really interesting to see exactly where he lands and how he fits into the system and what kind of development opportunities they have for Rocco Zikarsky. He's a name to watch in the next couple of days, no doubt about that. Someone who took a different journey, so the two next stars, Tui and Zikarsky, and then Tyrese Proctor, of course, went and spent a collegiate career at Duke University. They made a deep tournament run this year, we know that. And did it in a different way, and he's also really heavily in the mix in this second round.
He's been somewhat out of sight, out of mind for Australian fans, but in terms of an American audience, he's very much in the zeitgeist. He has been playing for one of the biggest college programs at Duke, and that has been a blessing, but it's also been one of his challenges as well. He's had to constantly adapt to the turnover in talent that they always bring in year after year. But I really like what Tyrese brings to the table. Again, so many skills, and he's a two-way player at 6'5", 6'6", a lot of size as a guard. He can shoot it at a high rate, and he can create at a pinch as well.
Given his experience, do you feel like he's another one who could be ready to maybe make a bit of an impact more quickly?
Yeah, I think skill-wise he's there. He is ready to contribute on both ends of the ball. Again, watching the NBA Finals and the sort of role players that do succeed in the league, I look at Nembhard. I thought he was a fantastic two-way piece for Indiana. He can score at a pinch, but he's one of those guys that can attack off a closeout, and I thought he did a great job on SGA as well. Tyrese is someone that can defend at a really high level. This is such an underrated quality of Tyrese's, and I think there's a real chance that he could stick as sort of a backup guard in the NBA for a long time.
Of course, there's another Nembhard in the draft as well at the back end, so that'll be interesting to watch where he goes to. Another player who's risen up the draft boards, especially at the back end of the year, is Lockie Ulbrich. So, interesting story again. Of course, a lot has to do with the contribution he made to Illawarra's championship run in the NBL, but proven at NBL 1 level, proven at NZNBL level, proven at the NBL level to contribute to winning, and he is someone who you and I both like a lot.
Yeah, we've been talking about him all season on this show. He's someone who has been such a fantastic talent for the Illawarra Hawks. As you said, been a winner, and not just been on winning teams, but been a valuable contributor on those winning teams as well. Now, I look at Lockie, I don't think he's the prototypical NBA big man. He lacks a bit of size, a bit of length. He's not a rim protector or a shot blocker necessarily, but you know, he is such a smart player that makes the most of his tools. He's really skilled around the rim. He plays really hard as well. And we've seen every step of this pre-draft process. He has done everything in his power. He did great at the G League showcase. That earned him an invite to the Combine. He was the leading rebounder at the Combine as well. So he's won over a lot of fans with his work rate, with his skill level. I think if he can shoot it long term, that would be great for his outcome. But, you know, right on the fringe of getting drafted. We've seen him in that 50s. If he can get picked up, that's fantastic.
And good news either way. He either gets drafted and gets an opportunity, or hopefully, maybe we get to see him back in the NBL and we get to watch him a little bit more closely. But very much very much in the heat check stable, Lockie Olbrich. So we wish him all the very best. And then another name that we've spoken about on this show recently is Rayne Smith, who we sort of flagged as finishing his collegiate career at Louisville and what could be next. Well, things are just starting to trend in the right direction for him recently, and all of a sudden now he's in the mix in the draft calculations as well.
He's 6 foot tall, if we're being very lucky towards him. He is not a point guard, he's not a creator, but he is a fantastic shooter. And when you have a world-class skill, you're always going to get a look in. Now, I don't know if he's going to stick at the NBA level or get drafted, but he is someone that very much deserves this opportunity. You could only imagine what he is shooting in these 1-on-0 workouts. He would look great in those empty gyms. But yeah, fantastic to see what he's doing, what his trajectory is like, and what the next move for him will be like. You mentioned Europe. I think Europe is probably his likely next destination. I think there was some interest in coming to the NBL, but if he's able to do well in Europe, that asking price is going to go up and up.
Yeah, he's a guy that does that skill very, very well. Of course, guys like Ethan Almanza are also in the mix here too. So, these are some of the names, not all of the names necessarily that we'll be watching, but we'll be keeping a very close eye on it.
Yeah, there are so many names to track in this that we know something exciting is going to happen on draft night. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, indeed it will be, and best of luck to everyone who's thrown their hat in the ring. We hope as many of those with Aussie connections get picked as is absolutely possible, no doubt about that. Let's stay in the NBA universe for a little while and talk Summer League spot, because there's been some movement this week. Alex Higgins-Titcher going to play with the Golden State Warriors, as we've sort of spoken about this guy's career and journey and trajectory rise over the last little while, and this is very, very exciting.
So much has been happening for Alex in such a short period of time. He's clearly done very well at this minicamp to get the Summer League invitation. Now, don't get me wrong, Alex is not at an NBA caliber right now, but he has the tools. You can see his athleticism, his motor. That's the sort of stuff that can work at the NBA level. He just needs to refine his skill set. So he's going to take all these awesome opportunities. He's going to hopefully come back to Cairns and make a big leap for them.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got, as you say, all the tools, very exciting prospect. So interesting to see what he does. Sam Menenga is also headed to Summer League with none other than the LA Lakers after plying his trade in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, he had a fantastic season in Puerto Rico. We know he's one of the more established players going over to Summer League, someone that has been one of the best local bigs in the competition last season. I think he's going to excel in this setting. It can be quite hard for the bigs. Sometimes those guys are trying to prove themselves a bit. The bigs don't see much of the ball, but luckily for Sam, he has so many tools in his tool bag. He can create his own shot, he can shoot from outside, he can go score inside as well. So I'm sure he's going to go and get his over there.
Big physical specimen as well, so he'll be pretty imposing when he rolls up to Summer League. He'll have no problems in the strength department. And one that perhaps we didn't see coming, we have been thinking about this guy's NBL future and what might be on offer there. But Wally Bales going to the New York Knicks in Summer League. I did not have this on my bingo card.
Absolutely not. I didn't see it coming either, but fantastic for Bawali. He obviously is a talent. Talent is not the issue. We've seen him. He's a fantastic creator, shot maker at the NBL 1 level. And I'm excited to see, does he get an opportunity in the Summer League setting? It would be fantastic to see if he can translate that. And again, Summer League, it's not always about making the NBA. It's about what international opportunities and doors you can open. I'm sure having Bawali played in Switzerland last season, he'll be looking at all sorts of options again.
Yeah, and I saw him up close and personal at the IBA All-Stars game a couple of weeks ago. The guy had it on a string, so he's in very, very good form. He's playing with confidence. We know that he's a proven commodity in terms of production, so interesting to see where it ends up for Bawali. Of course, basketball.com.au will be at Summer League. July 10 it all kicks off, so we'll have plenty of coverage for you in the next couple of weeks of exactly what happens over there in Vegas. Let's head abroad from a broader sense. Let's go over to Europe. Jack White, we've spoken about him. He's been plying his trade with Bayern Munich in the German Bundesliga. Now, latest news is that they've tied up that grand final series. So 2-2, going to a decider, and he's been playing some good ball.
I was very relieved to hear they tied this series up. Every time we talk about Jack White and Bayern Munich, I've spoken about how they're the #1 seed. They are the team to beat, very dominant in Germany. And I think this is the first time we have seen them on the back foot. You know, they were down 2-1 in this series, but very fortunate they've levelled it. They're going to go to a deciding Game 5. Jack White's been pretty good in this series. He's been up and down in terms of, you know, their deep rotation and making an impact. He had 10 points and 8 rebounds in one of the games. He went scoreless in Game 3. So Jack's been a little bit up and down, but he has been knocking down his free throws, which is always good to see.
We like that. Good stuff, Jack. You know, and that is an organisation that just demands success. They sort of roll out of bed and win Bundesliga championships, be it in football or basketball or whatever it is. So they will be wanting to deliver another one, and Jack White will be a big part of it if they can. Wouldn't be a week here on Heat Check. It is, you know, freezing in our part of the world at the moment, so we've got to just bask in the glory and the warmth of Puerto Rico and check in with our man Milton, whose season has come to an end with Mayaguez over there. Of course, he's headed to Melbourne United in his next stop, but Milton Doyle has put together a pretty good campaign.
Extremely productive, part of that very fun Mayaguez trio that we've been tracking all season. And if we have a look at the numbers over the season, he's been averaging over 15 points a game, over 6 assists per game. Now, when I look at his scoring numbers, I find it fascinating. Milton has never been maybe the most efficient scorer that we've ever seen. He lives on a diet of jump shots, doesn't get to the line or the rim too much. He shot 36% from the field in Puerto Rico. So the efficiency hasn't necessarily ticked up from, you know, his somewhat lackluster season in Tasmania. But the number that stood out to me is that assist total. In Melbourne, he's going to be playing essentially as a pseudo point guard, and that facilitation is going to be so important.
Yeah, he had some big games on the assist front. It was interesting to hear his comments recently about how different players in different systems can, you know, what that system, playing with Chris Golding, playing with Shea Ili, what that will do for his game. It sounds like he feels that there's another level or layer to his game that Melbourne United might help him unlock.
It'll be fascinating to see what Dean Vickerman can bring out of him. We know Dean is one of the best coaches in the league. I'm very excited to see, you know, how he's going to play alongside that other talent. You know, Chris Golding is one of the best shooting talents in the league, someone that is very easy to facilitate too. So it'll be very interesting to see how that tandem plays out.
It's a shame that he's not in Puerto Rico anymore, because we don't get any more of the Milton, that sort of guttural, visceral reaction from the commentary team over there, but that will live long in our hearts here on Heat Check, no doubt about that. Justin Tatum, we spoke about him a few weeks ago, going to Indonesia to coach over there for a short stint. Going pretty well. Hasn't lost with Pelita Jaya at the moment, and he just continues to win wherever he goes.
I'm not going to tell you that I know anything about the Indonesian league, Joel. I've tried researching it. It is very obscure. But the one thing that I do know, wherever Justin Tatum goes, winning follows. He's doing a fantastic job over there. Finals are only a few weeks away, so hopefully by the time he gets back to Illawarra, he has a little bit of extra silverware.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be we knew it was going to be a short stint that he'd wrap up around the time that the finals would conclude. So we'll be keeping an eye closely on Justin Tatum and his Hawks, who are just been a bit quiet in the off-season so far in the NBL, to see what they've got in store over the next little while. Another thing we've been looking forward to is the NBL Select Team games. So they're over in Japan playing against the B-League squad that's been assembled. These games are on over the course of the weekend. You'll be able to catch them on basketball.com.au. We spoke about the squad when it was announced a couple of weeks ago, and that it was a sort of an interesting conglomeration of people of different levels and ages and all kinds of things. But this will be, yeah, there's some interesting things to keep an eye on here in terms of these names.
Yeah, it's a real Frankenstein of a team, you know, players from all across the league. Very fascinating to see how they go. I'm excited to see some of this B-League talent as well. We see so many of our players going over, playing in this B-League competition. But what does that local contingent look like, and how does that stack up with our local players? I think that's going to be the big takeaway from this.
Yeah, absolutely. So across the course of the weekend, keep your eyes on basketball.com.au for all of that detail. A couple of ones closer to home to finish up. I really like the way Johnny Narkle goes about it out for Geraldton in the NBL 1 West. He's won just about everything there is to win in that competition, and at the weekend had a monster game. 53 points as they put up some absurd number against Goldfields, did the Buccaneers. And this is a guy who's been on the fringes from an NBL perspective. Are the doors starting to open potentially, do you think?
I hope so. It feels like he's right at that front of the queue, knocking on the NBL door. He is such a fantastic talent. Only 23 years old. Every single year, he is getting better and better. He's working on his game. Very unique combination of abilities. He's about 6'7", a very smooth athlete. Has great feel for the game as well. He's really racking up those assist numbers. And again, 53 points. You can't do much better than that.
I think he's a two-time Defensive Player of the Year in the West as well. You know, you think about someone like Will Hickey, who sort of really had to grind out an opportunity, kept producing, kept going back, getting better, and maybe there's something that could open there for Johnny Narkle. So we certainly hope that he gets his name called and gets an NBL roster spot in the near future, because when he's capable of the things like that, he's obviously a pretty special talent. And one that you spotted to end the show as well is a famous name doing some good things for the Centre of Excellence in the NBL 1.
That's right, Rio Bruden. Now, I don't need to acquaint the name with anybody. Everyone knows that is Australian basketball royalty. But Rio coming up, he is a fantastic talent. Shades of his dad, CJ, in the way that he goes about it. Fantastic shooter and shot maker. Plays with a lot of confidence. I don't know if they're going to show it in these clips, but one of the few Bruden dunks that I have ever seen as well. So I'm very excited to see what he can continue to do with the COE and beyond.
Yeah, there's plenty of talent here. And there's a lot to like about this young man's game. And the COE, if you're just looking for someone to watch in the NBL 1, the COE are a very, very fun team, be it the women's team with Sataya Fagan or the men's team with talent like that. They have really good value.
Yeah, I find it so much fun to watch every single year. You're looking at a team of guys that are going to go on to be professionals at the highest level. There's usually some sort of NBA talent every single year on the COA.
Absolutely. That just about does us this weekend on Heat Check. Mick, try and get some sleep with the draft and everything happening. Of course, we've got the NBL Select games as well. Just try and get some sleep at some course over the next few days before I see you next week.
I'll try my best. It's going to be very busy.
It is indeed, but it's very exciting. All the best to those in the NBA draft calculations. We'll have the wrap-up of it all this time next week. Hope you can join us then on Heat Check.